on the B broadcast, we'll be talking to the man who says his leadership qualities are like no other. Excellent representation, solid morals, and being passionate about holistic development, all the way from Monique St. Anne. We'll be speaking with Mr. Paul Jones, nominee for Junior Vice President for the Sixth Form Association, past head boy for the Fern Court, past head boy and deputy head boy for the Fern Court High School, peer educator, and someone in the Governor General's I Believe initiative, being an ambassador for that and safety and security, who with your help wants to add junior VP of the SFA to that long list. His record speaks for itself, but does he have what it takes? I am Bobby Francis. This is the B broadcast brought to you by the B Broadcasting Commission, and you'll have more coming up after this break. We have Mr. Paul Jones with us this afternoon in our second edition of the B broadcast for our presidential candidate. I am Bobby Francis, your host. Good evening, Paul. How you do?
Good evening, Mr. Francis. I'm not bad at all. How are you?
I'm doing well, doing well.
Good to
So
hear.
let's jump right into it. Don't have any time to waste as leaders do. We're going to start with your slogan, no need to bother. My leadership qualities are like no other. You don't think that's cocky, a bit too pompous for the campaign? What do you think about that?
Not at all. I believe the people, or the students rather, deserve truth. And so, in formulating this slogan, I believe it would have been suitable, or the most suitable phrase to use for my campaign.
You don't think you're intimidating others who may not have the experience you do?
I don't. Well, I don't think so at all. No,
Or
sir.
that's not your purpose? You just
That's
want
not
to
the
brag
purpose.
to get
Right.
the election. Fair enough. Mr. Jones, we started with 4 potential nominees when this election was called. Paul Jones, Kimon Hines, Lennon Richards, Nastasia Scarlett, and now we are left with two, Paul Jones and Lennon Richards. What are your thoughts on that? You think the race is getting too tight, people are becoming intimidated and dropping out, or people just losing their interest?
I wouldn't say they're intimidated, or I would say I wouldn't know, but
Mm.
I don't think it is something that we should be afraid of. Serving should be a passion, and in all that you do, you should just do it wholeheartedly, and not just drop out at the nick of the election. So I hope that those who have pulled back had good reasons, and I wish them all the best. That's all I
So you
would.
wouldn't want them to join back the campaign?
Well, sure, but it's definitely up to them.
Fair enough. Tell me, you're new on the block at YC, but launched into leadership already. How you plan to convince the electorate that you aren't so familiar with that they should trust you with their vote?
Well, provided that the leadership experiences were displayed. Along with that, I believe the fact that as I said, I'm passionate about what I do, and so I will give it my very best and lead as I said I would. That is key in leadership, leading and serving all stakeholders that you are placed in charge of. And I believe when they see all those qualities being displayed, I believe the trust will begin over time. It may start off a little bit rocky, but we know the mindset that we should have as leaders. And
Right.
so I believe as time goes by, they will definitely get used to my approach on leadership.
Fair enough. Mr. Jones, Marshanique Fuller, your campaign manager, I believe, has been a YC student since 2015. How did you convince her to be such a strong supporter of your campaign?
With point of correction, Mr. Francis, it's actually uh, Andrew McIntosh. That is the
Oh, well, you
campaign
can
manager.
imagine why we are confused.
I know, but I believe I have known her since grade 10 when COVID just came to Jamaica. And we started this online learning when we were plunged into, the stay at home protocols and all of that. And so we initiated a WhatsApp group actually, where we had students from all over the region joining, and we had, study sessions where we studied past papers, we had oral sessions for Spanish and all of that. And that is how we got to know each other. So from there, the relationship started, and I believe she has seen all the qualities because we have talked over time, and I guess I know that that is the reason why she is full-fledged supporting Paul Jones.
I hear you say Andrew McIntosh though. That's why is he Andrew McIntosh?
Andrew McIntosh, yes, he's from York Castle as well. He has been there
Okay,
since.
class valedictorian and YC students in 2015. I presume the same track record is what convinced him to be your supporter, right?
Oh yes, indeed.
Fair enough. Tell us about yourself, Mr. Jones. Let the electorate get a second with Paul. Go ahead.
About myself, well, I know I'm a person who possesses great interpersonal skills. I am a great team player, and I aspire to be a doctor in the future. And one of the things I love in leadership is servant leadership. Servant leadership is crucial in any institution, as we must understand that when you are leading, you're not leading for your own gain, but you're leading because of the institution itself. So, in a nutshell, I possess qualities of leadership over the years. Over the years since my primary education, I've been experienced or exposed rather to leadership, and it has become a part of me. So I would say I am a born leader.
Born leader. Fair enough. What's the first task you plan to tackle should you be elected?
If I'm elected your junior vice president, the first thing I would want to tackle is that 10% of students, as the statistics showed, on the York Castle High School's page where those students are not able to access online classes. What I will do is sit with the elected board of governors, that is the president, the senior VP, etc., and come together to formulate a plan as to how we can get sponsors, for example, from the member of parliament, prominent business owners in the area of Brownstown, and from the alumni as well, and see if we can get gadgets so they can access online classes, and not only gadgets, but different mediums of internet connectivity where they are able to participate in this teaching and learning experience. So that is the main thing I would want to get in place now, because as our motto says, every child can learn and every child must learn.
Fair enough, and I like the sound of that. I've seen a lot of accomplishments on the screen here. They're just a few to list. But one of them kind of stands out that we're kind of not so familiar with. Safety and Security Ambassador. Tell me, Mr. Jones, how does being an S&S ambassador, make you an asset for this job?
In everything, we need to be safe, right, and secure. So it's not only about being physically safe, but what about our mental aspect of our lives, the academics and all of that? So it doesn't revolve only around being safe physically. And this was initiated at the Ferncourt High School, where I served as head boy in the previous academic year. And I think it is a program as well that was adapted by the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information. So there we had many different safety and security ambassadors as well, where we trained and we talked to the all stakeholders at Ferncourt about being safe and secure in all the aspects I named earlier.
Fair enough. And I know we have that program at YC too, so maybe you can come and help to propel that. Coming up on our 7th minute, have to take a break. We're going to do some business and come right back. Speaking with Paul Jones, no need to bother. Leadership qualities like no other. Seeking to become your next super leader as Junior VP of the Sixth Form Association. I'm Bobby Francis, and you're listening to B Broadcast. brought to you by the B Broadcasting Commission, sponsored by the Students' Council of Yorkcastle High School. We'll be right back in a jiffy. And we're happy to have you back with us this evening. You're watching the B Broadcast, brought to you by the B Broadcasting Commission, sponsored by the Students' Council of Yorkcastle High School. Speaking with Paul Jones here, nominee for the Junior VP of the Sixth Form Association. I am your host, Bobby Francis. Right before the break, we were talking about how safety and security will be an asset, into him being a leader. Now we're gonna go deeper into all this thing. You're going up against Lennon Richards, Paul Jones, man of the soil,
Yes, sir.
overly popular and running on the campaign of being cool. Tell me, Mr. Jones, don't you feel intimidated? How do you rebut this?
I am in no way intimidated at all, Mr. Francis. Being being cool, I would say I can't see where it would tie into being a junior vice president.
Mm,
I believe this association, which is quite an esteemed association, I must say,
mm,
needs a leader who will come with ideas,
mhm,
who will enact those ideas,
mm.
who values team effort, and who
Right.
will seek only to uplift the sixth form program at Yorkcastle High. So I am not intimidated at all.
So you think you're the opposite of being cool?
I think I can, switch between both cool and uncool, if we can call it that.
And
So,
what you call uncool now?
because there are times where you will have to be, there are different leadership styles that you have to possess as a leader. There are times when you will be democratic
Hmm.
based on your audience. And there are times as well when you are among an audience that, for example, that will just not cooperate. And so
Right.
therefore you have to, pull out that autocratic side of you and say this must be done or this cannot be done, or something along that line. So you have to just know how to work around those different leadership styles. And so
I
that
hear
is
the head boy coming out in you, Mr.
correct.
Jones.
Yes,
So
sir.
I have to ask you now, Mr. Jones, what do you have that your opponent doesn't have?
What do I have that my opponent doesn't have? Well, I couldn't say. I've never seen my opponent in, the in leadership before. And
Mm,
as you know, I'm new to the school, so
mm,
I wouldn't have experienced his form of leadership. But there's one thing I know is
mm.
that whatever I'm asked to be done will be done, and I will only seek my best all time. That is what I know of at this present time.
At this present time, how would you define a successful term as junior VP, Mr. Jones?
A successful term as junior VP would be,
Mhm.
you know, an even better sixth form association than it is today. And as I said before, it is quite an esteemed one already. So it would only get better. That would be the end result. The end result at the end of my time as junior vice president would even be a sixth form association that is more uplifted and, recognized on an even larger scale.
Even larger scale. Let's talk a little about the polls, though. You have been suffering tremendously. Do you think there's any way you could catch up to your opponent?
I believe so.
Yeah.
After persons hear of the plans, or after persons hear of all that I will come with, all I have to offer, and I believe if they vote wisely, then the results will be even better.
Well, if we look at the polls, we're seeing 30% undecided. How you plan to tap into all of that, Mr. Jones?
30% undecided. The manifesto, as we call it, would have been displayed in a recent pledge I sent out on the tabloid there. And I believe after they have heard the speech as well, they will be even more convinced to vote for yours truly. So, provided that they're undecided, I really understand maybe they don't know me that well. And, based on different factors that could have prevented them from making a concrete decision. But I know that I can offer this association a whole lot that will make us be successful individually as students and collectively as a body.
But from the look of things, Mr. Jones, that 10% Nastasia Scarlett had gone right up to Lennon Richards. So that's an even more significant separation. Are you just holding on to thin hope, or you're very confident in your plans?
I'm quite confident in my plan, sir, that if it's the will of the Lord as well, that I will be the successful candidate.
Now, we've seen a lot of things coming from Donald Trump allegedly losing the election. How you think you're going to manage defeat? Should you be defeated?
Could you repeat, sir?
We see a lot of things coming from Donald Trump, who has allegedly lost the election. How you plan to deal with defeat? Should you be defeated in the election?
Should I be defeated in this election, I will give of my support just as I would if I was elected as the junior VP. I will cooperate with the junior VP if it's not me. I will give my ideas if I'm asked as well. And just as I have done at Fern Court, giving of my time and all of that, I will do even so now.
You're sounding like a perfect politician, Paul Jones. How do you hit back at critics that say you're just being a regular politician?
Well, if you can't really change a person's perception of you. You have to just live in truth, walk circumspect, and at all times keep your head up, and be confident in who you are. So, you will always find the critiques, but I am not bothered by them at all.
Fair enough. Let's talk a little about your manifesto now, Mr. Jones. We've seen a lot of general things, but we're not seeing an actual plan. What's your COVID-19 resilient plan for sixth form?
My COVID-19 resilient plan for sixth form, as I said before, I would ensure the first thing I would do is ensure that all of the sixth formers would have been accessing their online school. All right. So provided that or pre-adventure we go back into the classroom, which is expected right now, I would ensure that all my sixth formers they readapt themselves to the classroom setting, being away from it for so long since March. And I would allow them to familiarize themselves with the classroom, come together with the executive and plan different programs where we can give full support to those students when they come back after this lockdown.
Ensuring holistic development of all sixth formers. How you plan to do that?
Yes, sir. Ensuring holistic development. We tend to only focus on the academic aspect of our lives all the time as students. And even we as leaders, we do that sometimes as well. not understanding that our social development is also important as well.
Mm.
And so I will ensure that we have personal development sessions for our sixth formers who will, in the future matriculate into a tertiary institution. So how do you behave when you go out in this wide society? What to expect, how to deal with certain situations and things like those is what I call holistic development. So you are developed holistically, not in just in the classroom where you get a lot of 90s and all of that. But if you are presented with a certain situation, you know the exact approach to take in dealing with it.
Fair enough. And I hear you talking a lot about ensuring sixth form grows to its fullest potential. What do you
Yeah.
think sixth form currently is lacking, and who do you blame for that?
Say that again.
I hear you talking a lot about ensuring sixth form grows to its fullest potential. What do you think sixth form is lacking, and who do you blame for that?
Well, at this time, the Sixth Form Association at Your Castle High is very good, very very good. I would say you
Mhm.
can. It's very hard to find things that are wrong with the program at Your
Mm.
Castle, right?
Right.
But in everything we have ticks and bits where we need to dot some i's and cross some t's and all of that. And so I would do a deep analysis of our program, of our association, and ensure that those little glitches that are there, they are fixed. Whatever route we have to take to deal with them, I will ensure that those are done, right? And so the end result is a sixth form with 100% performance.
You're moving away from the question, though. Who do you blame for that?
There are a lot of persons that you can blame. You can blame the management. You
Mm.
can blame even the students as well, who may not want to cooperate with the systems that have been put in place.
Mm.
And in some cases too, we can blame the student leaders, you
Mm.
know, because we know for a fact that not all student leaders carry out their roles effectively. I'm not saying no that the ones at your castle are doing so, but as I
Mm.
said, deep analysis would be necessary.
Fair enough. So I'm sure you're ready to deal with those type of things.
Quite so.
I hear you refer to the broader concept of inclusivity of stakeholders. That's a cliche promise we hear all the time coming from politicians. What mechanism will you put in place to ensure that this promise becomes a reality?
It makes no sense, really, that you are in an institution or an organization and you are not benefiting. So we need to locate all those persons of different backgrounds. We know everybody is different. And so we need to find each and every person. So it's not only the students, but we're talking about the teachers, the ancillary staff, the canteen staff. Every individual is respected, is loved, is treated fairly, in a sense where we don't just focus on the academic staff, or we don't just focus on the academics of the school, but everything that revolves around your castle high. So each and every student, each and every individual that steps onto the compound must benefit in some way or another. They must benefit.
Fair enough. We've heard a lot, that after the grassroots people elect their leaders, when they go into office, they forget them. Do you have a program in mind to ensure that your grassroots people remain connected?
That is the persons who have been at your castle since seventh grade. And
Mm. Everybody, no man, no man, not just YC. Everyone who went together to elect you. I hear you talking about inclusivity of stakeholders, but what I want to know is if you have a program in mind, an actual program to get that done.
yes, indeed, I do. I would say I do. And I wouldn't just focus, Mr. Francis, on those who have elected me, but for those who have
Mhm.
elected and those who, even so, did not elect me as well. Those who
Right.
voted for other persons, because we all have preferences, right? And
Indeed.
so I would ensure that the first thing I do is, keep that bond among
Mm.
all of them. So I wouldn't want for there to be any segregation in the sixth form.
Segregation.
but we
That's
must,
my question to you.
right. So
That's
we
my
must,
next question to you. Do you think there's division in sixth form? Or you're speaking? Sorry, continue what you're saying.
yes, I'm saying there shouldn't be segregation among
Mm.
the voters because you have voted for a particular individual and you have voted for a particular individual. Not so. But we I want us to have different webinars where we interact with each other,
With
where we
everybody.
keep the Yorkist bond and things like those. So it's not just okay, that side over there is Paul's side and this side is Lennon's side or whatever it is. But we are one family and we are the main goal is for us to stick
Have
together.
to interrupt you right there, Mr. Jones. Coming up on a break. We'll be right back. Speaking with Paul Jones, VP aspirant for the Sixth Form Association. You're watching the B broadcast. Brought to you by the B Broadcasting Commission, sponsored by the Students' Council of Broadcasting. We'll be right back. Hope you're just joining us if you are. I hope there are more persons joining us if you're here. We're here speaking with Paul Jones. No need to bother. Leadership qualities like no other. Seeking to become your next super leader. As Junior Vice President of the Sixth Form Association, I am Bobby Francis, your host, and we're here on the B Broadcast, brought to you by the B Broadcasting Commission, sponsored by the Students' Council of Yorkcastle High School. Touching back on what we were just talking about a little, Paul Jones, very good discussion we're having here. Do you believe there's division in sixth form?
I didn't
Respond to
get
me
that, Mr.
first,
Francis.
please. Do you believe there's division in sixth form? You mentioned segregation. Do you believe there's segregation in sixth form between what has been politically described as original Yorkists versus unoriginal Yorkists? You believe in that segregation? You think it's there? You think it's a reality?
No, no, sir. I'm not seeing that no at all. I must say, I must commend the six farmers as a matter of fact, because over this campaigning period, I haven't seen anybody, causing any mayhem in the different WhatsApp groups or anything of that matter. It's all
I know.
peace and love and
And
harmony,
love
even in a time like this. So I must commend them, and
and harmony.
I can't. I have no need to report anything like that of that
Very
nature.
good. What do you think about your opponent's manifesto, Paul?
My opponent's manifesto. Ah, well, I think I would look for, I would look for more substance, in that. How is it that I'm just going to, I'm just gonna have this cool person all the time, right? But I'm not hearing what will be done or how will we develop or, how will we achieve something with you
But he's
being our.
mentioned building communication channels and being a loud banger voice for students, enhancing students' financial knowledge, and making students' concerns and interests dealt with promptly. You don't think that's things of substance?
Yes, but not to full capacity.
Not
As
to the full capacity.
oh
Fair
no,
enough. You think yours provide better substance for the students?
I believe so.
Fair enough. Busy Bee, I see, Mr. Jones. How do you manage your time? Commitment is something I know students love to talk about. How do you assure the electorate you'll be committing to them?
As you have seen, I have served in many positions before. And as it was then, it is just as hard now, right? But being, as I'm going to use the word again, committed,
Mhm.
you must be committed to what you do. So, it must be done. No matter what, it must be done. So, you are going to have a balance on things. So, you are leading the charge, and at the same time, you are ensuring that you are doing well academically as well. So, right?
Academic.
So, exactly. So,
Fair enough.
you should have a time plan and be regular with that time plan as well.
Regular with that time plan. Sounds good. Tell me something about yourself. Others may be surprised to hear about you.
Something about myself that others may be surprised to hear. Uh, I have always wanted to attend your castle since grade
Ah,
six, I would say.
that's interesting.
Many persons would know because I have been so loyal to Ferncourt during my
So
years.
is it that you're now um, disassociating your loyalty from Ferncourt to York Castle?
Certainly not. I would never do that. That is something I would never do, no matter
But
what.
haven't you shifted loyalty after spending 5 years coming over? You don't think that's a shift in loyalty? Or a
No,
pretty
not
way
at
to say
all.
you've disassociated, but just disassociated later?
I wouldn't say that, Mr. Francis. My loyalty is still there. I'll still be loyal
Is there?
as a past student.
Right,
I will
right,
be loyal
right.
at your castle as a student for my time there.
Fair enough. You have any role models, Mr. Jones? That's my final question before the last segment. Do you have any role models?
My role model, I would say, is my pastor.
Your pastor.
Yes, my
And
pastor.
can you tell me one reason you would try to model him?
He's a bold leader, although faced with so many different situations from time to time. He always ensures that things are in order, and no matter what happens, things must remain a certain way in order
Sir.
for us to achieve success. So that
Fair
is why
enough.
I am a good role
Fair
model.
enough. We go into our final break. Well, you've heard it so far. After this break, we will allow Mr. Paul Jones to take his final shot at appealing to the electorate as to why they should vote for him as their next vice president. Speaking with Paul Jones, vice president aspirant of the Sixth Form Association. I'm Bobby Francis. You're watching B Broadcast, brought to you by the B Broadcasting Commission, sponsored by Students Council of Broadcast. We'll be right back in a jiffy. No need to bother. My leadership qualities are like no other. Coming to us from Monique this afternoon is Paul Jones, Vice President aspirant of the Sixth Form Association. Paul Jones has been talking with us a little this afternoon, talking about excellent representation, solid morals, and being passionate about holistic development. You are watching the B broadcast brought to you by the B Broadcasting Commission, sponsored by the Students' Council of York Castle High School. And Bobby Francis, your host. And we're about to give the floor to Paul Jones in a 1 minute effort to appeal to the electorate for the final time, few days before the election, as to why they should vote for him. Mr. Jones, the floor is yours.
My fellow Yorkies, you have seen, you have heard, you have gotten a full understanding of who I am. Today I want to ask, what will you choose? Will you choose popularity or will you choose progress? I can assure you that in all I do as your junior vice president, you will come first. I say it again, I can assure you that in each and everything I do at your castle, you will be put first. So, come November 13th, I want for you to make the right choice. Vote Paul Jones for junior vice president of the Sixth Form Association at your castle high school.
Well, there we have it, folks. What a night it was. Speaking there was Paul Jones, Vice President aspirant of the Sixth Form Association. Excellent representation, solid morals, etc. No need to bother. My leadership is like no other. There we go. It was fun speaking with you this evening. Paul, thank you for joining us. Viewers, this was the B Broadcast brought to you by the B Broadcasting Commission, sponsored by the Students' Council of York Castle High School. The only news you'll get is on the B. Take it easy. Good night.